Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes weekly webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Today, I'm excited to show you the very sweet family collection from our friends at Stamperia. We have pattern papers, we have rub-on transfers, and die-cut chipboard embellishments, all perfectly coordinated. So let's have a look. I'll move aside our embellishments just for now, and we can take a look at the paper pack. So this 8x8 paper pack has 10 double-sided sheets, plus a bonus sheet of fussy cut elements on the inside front and also on the inside back cover. And as I flip through here, you'll see this design style and this very sweet illustration style from Stamperia in this collection. You've got a very gentle color palette with the blues and reds and off-white. You've got a lot of sheets that are a nice overall background design, as well as some that have a scenery style to them. And this is all focusing on a little family of very sweet mice. And this will carry on throughout the paper pack as well as the embellishment. So, of course, everything being totally coordinated makes it a lot easier. Now, Stamperia will often include sheets with these cutouts. These are great. You can simply cut these apart with your paper trimmer. On one side, you have images and sentiments. On the other side, you've got some nice framework as well as background elements, but you can add your own designs to fill the rest of this empty space. So you've got some options for personalization in here as well. So you've got another sheet with the rectangles and then some additional smaller elements here too. And then here's our last sheet with the fussy cut elements, so the inside back cover. Now to go along, we also have a set of rub-ons, absolutely adorable. So you've got banners and presents and then these really cute animals in here too. Now on the back of the package, you always have instructions for how to apply the rub-ons, but I'll demo them for us today too. And then finally, the pack of chipboard die-cut embellishments. Well, there are 44 pieces in all, and I put them onto 2 background sheets so you can see the variety that you've got here. So lots of nice large elements to use as focals on your card, as well as plenty of sentiments and smaller items in here too. So you've got some smaller accents and you can do some layering on there as well. So as you can see, we have a lot of wonderful papers and embellishments to play with today. I'm really glad you're here and I'm so excited to explore the possibilities with you. So come play with us. Let's start with this simple card, which combines the pattern papers, the cutouts, the rub-ons, and the chipboard die cuts here all together. Now I've started with the different elements that make up my layered focal. So here I have this really sweet chipboard mouse, and he's standing next to a stack of gifts. This is a rub-on, which has been applied to one of the cutouts. So you'll start to see as you're pulling your materials how easily all of these elements can come together. So these cutouts are just the perfect size for so many of those chipboard elements and create an instant frame and give a nice spotlight area to those images. So then this has been matted onto the wood grain pattern paper, which is this one here, and then I've inked around the outside edges using the mustard ink pad. And I'm using this ink pad throughout today's webisode because it does really give a nice effect to these pattern papers, and the color just worked beautifully. So after applying all of these together, and I've added my cutout onto my wood grain background paper with some foam tape, so I have a bit of dimension there. And then I've added in my background paper, so for the front of my card. Now the background paper is this kind of patchwork design. I think this is just so pretty. And before I added the paper to my card front, I played around with my matted focal just to see which area I wanted to have showing around the outside edges there. And that was kind of hard to do because I wanted everything to show. So I finally figured that out and then glued this sheet to the front of my card. and that's a 5 by 6.5 inch card blank, and then just trimmed it to size and inked around the outside edges with the mustard ink pad. And I've also added in some small chipboard heart-shaped pieces. You get quite a few of these in the chipboard collection, and these work really nicely just to tuck around as accents. And of course the image is repeated in the background paper as well there too. So you've got a lot of continuity with those shapes and designs. And then of course with this rub-on here too, I've got a nice extra layer. So let's take a look at the rub-ons. Now I mentioned that these were really easy to apply, and I think they just add a really nice effect to your card design. So I've trimmed out one of the images from the main sheet of the rub-ons, and when I do this, I make sure that I'm keeping the two layers together until I figure out exactly where I want to apply that image. So I can take this off and kind of play around again where I want to position this. Let's just put this little guy right down here at the bottom. And then I'll smooth this down. And this is slightly tacky, slightly adhesive, so it will stay in place and it won't slide around while you're burnishing that in place. And I like to use a bone folder for this, and I'll just burnish this firmly and evenly, kind of going around the outside edges, any little details on the design that you want to be extra careful of, and go around the entire design here. And then I'm going to gently and slowly lift this up. And I'm not going to pull the whole thing off in one go because I do want to make sure, whoops, like right here, I didn't get the entire part of his little bear paw. So I can just place that back down and continue to burnish that in place. And then make sure that that's all transferred before I keep going here. So they're really pretty forgiving as well, which is awfully nice. And then I've got my design added to my cutout, and super simple to do. It's a nice way to add an additional layer of dimension and personalize these elements without adding on any extra bulk. Okay, so now for my card inside, I have a strip of the pattern paper that I used on the front of my card. This is the back side of that patchwork paper. So this design here has that really pretty quilted effect on the other side. And I've inked the edges with the mustard ink pad and then glued this in place along the fold of my card. I have another cutout here. I also have the I Love You cutout. This is popped up with some foam tape, and then the chipboard heart and gift. Now this little guy here, this is one of the fussy cut elements from the inside back cover of the collection. I think he is just absolutely adorable, and so I have fussy cut him and then positioned him so that he's kind of casually leaning on this piece here. All right, so let's have a look at another project. This time it's a tag in a bag. The tag in a bag die is one of my favorites, and I just knew it would be a really fun combination with these papers and embellishments. So let's have a look at the die, and then we can talk more about the project. So the die that I'm working with is the Tag in a Bag cutting die set. You will have two shapes included here. So you have your tag, which is a very useful die to have on hand, whether or not you use it with the bag, but of course you've got the bag shape in here too. Project ideas and inspiration are on the front of the package, and on the back you've got some written instructions and another look at that inspiration. And then this is where I keep my dies, so just tucked inside that storage envelope, really easy and convenient. Now the tag I think is fairly self-explanatory, but the bag shape, let me show you this. This is the bag die design, and you'll have this really pretty kind of decal edge going around the top. You've got your score lines on either side and then along the bottom, and then of course your outside edge is going to cut the outside of that bag shape. So after you die cut this with your pattern paper or cardstock, all you need to do is follow those score lines and fold up your bag. Now, one thing I wanted to point out with your patterned papers is that when you've got double-sided pattern papers, you will have an area that will show on the inside top of your bag. So this is the pattern paper I used to die cut my bag from. So you'll just simply flip this over, secure it in place with some low tack tape, and run it through your die cutting machine. But before you do that, do have a look on the other side and see which section you might want to have showing on that inside back. So I wanted to have along the top here. So I've positioned my die like so, and that's going to give me this portion of patchwork design showing on the inside back. So just something to keep in mind when you're working with your double-sided patterned papers. So for the front, I've decorated the bag with a cutout layered with the chipboard flowers and chipboard leaves. Now, when I add flowers and leaves together, or in fact, when I'm doing any kind of chipboard layering, I like to secure all of the elements together first, and then I can add it to my card front or the front of my project. So then this way, what I'll do is simply figure out where I want, for example, those leaves to go. And I've got these held in place with a little bit of clear tape. And then I add in with smaller pieces of foam tape to kind of fill in this other open area. That way, when I adhere this to my project, this piece is level. So I won't have any portion of the design kind of going off to one side or another. It won't sag off to one side, but will stay level and even. So that's what I have here with my flowers, top and bottom. The happy moments, the heartfelt, and this little bird are all cutouts. And then I've added some heart rub-ons on here too. Then I've die cut the tag from this collage pattern paper, which I think is a really pretty design. Now, when you do this, remember, again, you have a design on the other side, so you may want to choose a specific area to have on the back of your tag, in which case I've decided I wanted to have this sweet little mouse here looking out the window. So that's on the back of my tag, and then I've got this managed on the front. So this is a nice way to utilize those double-sided pattern papers and make sure that everything is showing where you want it to. The front of my tag has a cutout, and I think you can start to see really how useful these are. And I have this large flower chipboard piece, so this element here. On top of that, I've got a stack of books with a teacup. And again, I've secured the two of these elements together and then flipped it over and added foam tape underneath this portion so it won't fall off to one side or the other. And then added those to the front of my tag. And I've got the I Miss You cutout, and this has a little bit of foam tape here on this end so that it will stay level. Now with the flower element, it is extending just a bit past the edge of the tag, but not too much. Otherwise, it won't fit back into the bag. And this will tuck in really nicely here. Now, at the top of my tag, I've simply threaded through a piece of very narrowly cut pattern paper. Of course, you can also use ribbon or twine too. And then the tag just tucks right back inside, and you even got room for a note or even perhaps a gift certificate to go along. Our next card design features the open doors technique, which is a really fun way to create an interactive card design. And it's also a really neat way to play with those scenery patterned background papers too. And this is a really easy technique to do using, of course, a cutting die. So the open doors card cutting die set. You've got a left and a right door on here, project idea on the front of the package, and then very important, on the back of your storage folder, you're going to have lots of different hints and tips and measurements for trimming down your cards or creating your card base to add on your open door technique. So there are lots and lots of different ways that you can use these dies, and let me show them to you, and I think you'll start to see all of these creative possibilities. So I've die cut my left and right sides here. Now you will have this score line over here on the edge, of each one. And what I like to do is use my bone folder to just give that a nice crisp edge on here. So from here, you can use these doors in lots of different ways. You can take your blank card and tuck your fold along the outside edge there. You can trim around the rest of the card blank from here to create this same shape on your card blank itself. Or you can do what I've done here on the front of my card. And I've created my open door scene on this scenery patterned paper. Let's have another look at this one. So you can see this here. And from here you can kind of play again with which section of that design you want to have showing through the various windows on your open door. So I've trimmed this down. Now I did do some inking around the outside edge of that pattern paper using the mustard ink pad. And my card base is actually covered with the teal solid cardstock. This is coming from the Mystical Florals cardstock pack. I'm also using the light green and the moss green here. So I've got the light green also as a matte, and the moss green is what I use to die cut my open doors from. So I've glued this entire piece to the front of my card, and I've also added the chipboard pieces here, timed together, and then the hearts. This is all up onto a cutout element here that you can see in the background. Now, do keep in mind when you glue your elements to the door, that the door should still be able to swing open. So if you, by accident, put something going over too far on the side, you can't open that quite so easily, which is why I had to redo the front of my card. So learn from my mistakes in that positioning there. So then when I open this up, I do have another cutout on the other side here, and I've added another little chipboard piece. And then I've got this sweet scenery going on in the inside. And then when I open up the card itself, I've kept the card inside pretty simple with the large square cutout, and I added the bunting rub-on up here at the top, plus this cute little mouse with her flowers on the inside, just to finish that off. Our final project is a simple cutaway card with a layered focal. So I first trimmed off a portion of just the front panel of my card, and this is almost 1.5 inches, but there's no real magic to that number. I just wanted to have enough left over on the front panel so that I could accommodate this 4-inch square cutout and then still have some room showing on the inside for my larger cutout that's going in here. So after I've cut off the portion of my card front, I covered most of it with the striped pattern paper. I inked the edge with mustard and then glued it to the card front while still leaving a bit of the white showing along the edge. The inside is covered with the teal cardstock. This is from the Mystical Florals collection, and that gives me a nice coordination with the colors in the banner rub-on, as well as the books that are printed on the cutout and also on my chipboard piece here too. And all I've added is the 4U die cut and a bow tied in some jute twine. Then on the card inside, I've got some balloon rub-ons. I've got the heart and the cutout here with the hearts as well as the chipboard piece. This is printed onto my main cutout and gives a sweet little message for the inside. And this is our final project of the day today. So a very big thank you to our friends at Stamperia for this really sweet collection. I did have a lot of fun playing with this. And a special thanks to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here, and we're happy that you're a part of our Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 6 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.